So we will start with Dolores Ordóñez, Director of Any Solution. So Dolores, do you have the floor?
Thank you so much, Olga. Good morning, everybody. So as Olga has mentioned, within Deploytour, which is the deployment of the Common European Tourism Data Space, we have defined a series of activities in order to ensure that the synergies and complementarities with any other initiative, data sharing initiative and data space can be implemented. So we are in a period in which different data spaces are being implemented in the 14 sectors that the European Commission has recognized as a common European data spaces. And what we want is to ensure that we are not reinventing the wheel, that we are not generating overlappings, but at the same time, we are generating synergies, and we are ensuring also this very important issue that is the cross-sector interoperability, which is a big challenge that we all have. But at the end of the day, is the only way to ensure that the activities that we want to implement at the level of the pilots, at the level of the use cases, is going to become a reality. As Olga has mentioned, we have identified some activities that we want to implement, and we are going to start from Deploytour to organize this webinar series. We will keep you informed. We will publish also on the websites and in the website and also in the social networks. This webinar that we are going to carry out with the different data spaces. Today, it's our pleasure to collaborate with Europeana, and we have here Harry Verbayen, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, Harry Verbayen, and Valentine Charles. And it's a pleasure to have them here. They are not only coordinating also the cultural heritage data space, but we are so proud that they are also our partners in Deploytour. So I think this is also very important because we are generating the synergies from the very beginning. So we are not working as separate entities, and indeed they are also helping us in the implementation of the pilot, one of the pilot on Deploytour, which is related to cultural heritage, and as I will explain later on. So it's just to mention that we are going to start this webinar series. We will keep you posted. The next one will be with the smart cities and communities, and very happy to start here. This webinar, as main outcomes or objectives that we have, is to start generating these discussion forums, what we are doing, in which pilots are we working, how we can continue collaborating together. So thank you so much for being here. And Olga, I don't know which is the next point.
Sure. We will continue with a panel presentation from Cultural Heritage Data Space and Tourism Data Space. I'm so sorry. I think it's going to be Harry Verbayen, the General Director of Europeana. Please, Harry.
Thank you, Olga and Dolores. It's a great pleasure to be here, and good morning to everyone. Yeah, maybe just to kickstart the discussion, which is really, I think, what we should be doing later on. Valentine and I would just like to present sort of the what Europeana and the data space have built up over the years, because it will help us, I think, have a smoother conversation later on. So I will share a couple of slides with you. There we go. You can see the slides, Olga? We're good? Okay, great.
Yes, perfect.
So, Pavlos, I hope you're pleased with the image here of Greece. This is an animated GIF that came about from the latest GIF It Up competition. So maybe as a starting point for this discussion, that it's indeed an obvious connection, right, that tourism and culture has, because especially in Europe, we know that a lot of tourism is culturally motivated. What is not so obvious and a lot harder, I think, to accomplish is how to actually make the connections on on the ground level. So let me just very quickly flip you through what this data space for cultural heritage is. I think it's the result of 15 years of work that Europeana and its partners have developed with the European Commission's strong support in the member states. We are currently a relatively small organization, 60 people in The Hague and a few across Europe. The interesting thing, I think, about Europeana is that we have a very large network. We have 5,000 members, mostly cultural heritage professionals. So think librarians, museum curators, archivists, and everything around it. And we work with a fairly large amount of museum libraries and archives across Europe through what we call accredited aggregators. So mostly every member state has an intermediary, which we call an aggregator, that is able to channel data from their countries to the larger data space. And we make all of that data interoperable so it can then find its way again to in other reuse settings. That's sort of the basic architecture that the data space for cultural heritage has been running on. The main aim is what we call to democratize access to cultural heritage data so that it can find use cases in tourism, in education, and so forth. So where we're already quite well versed, I think, in areas like research and education, tourism is a relatively new terrain for us. We do think we have a lot of interesting data, we have the connections, but really to make this work, that's also for us a really interesting new endeavor. Just a few numbers. We have currently in our database around 60 million items, ranging from 3D books, paintings, and so forth, media assets as well. You have to remember that we have what we collect is metadata linking to original source files, which are still located in the repositories of the institutions. So we have access to it. What we've been focusing a lot of efforts on in the last 10, 12 years is to make that material as reusable as possible. So we have frameworks that define quality. So we can, when you visit our website, you will be able to see, you know, the quality levels of all of those assets. And there's a licensing framework that is fairly accurate, which allows us to also say what you can do with that material. And 75% of all the data is really reusable without many restrictions, and half of it, so about 30 million, is completely freely reusable. So I think that'll make it easier for us to do interesting things locally. We have a website. I'm not going to show you this. This is just a promo video. But we also have APIs and Spark endpoints, all kinds of other ways to engage with that data. And more we're trying to invest in more immersive experiences. So this is sort of a dream scenario we're working towards, where everything will also have a digital layer. The Eiffel Tower will also have its digital layer. And this is kind of the time machine kinds of things where you'll be able to scroll back in time when you're in a place where there's a high density of historical data available, which is of course still a long shot from where we are. And in particularly for the more remote places where less historical data is available. But this is sort of the dream scenario we're working towards, that every place and city in Europe also have a digital overlay that we can play with. So zooming in on the relationship between culture and tourism, as we know and already said, there is a very clear, obvious connection to be made. But the problem that we're facing is that tourism is not only an opportunity, but also a threat. I think that's very central to Deploytour. How do we overcome that and become more sustainable, both for the tourism sector, but also for the cultural heritage sector, where a lot of damage is also being done. So taking that as a starting point, I think the challenge we're facing and that we're thinking about is how can we tap into, let's say, the choice architecture of the brains of people? How can we make them change their behaviors in tourism? And there are three ways that we're exploring that at the moment. All of it is still very much work in progress. The first one is, how can we inspire people to, for example, not only go to Amsterdam, which is already overcrowded, as we all know, and not only go in Amsterdam to the places which are completely overcrowded, the Van Gogh Museum, the Rijksmuseum, and so forth, but invite them to explore other areas of the city. Amsterdam has launched the city as the museum initiative. It's not only going to the museum, but explore the whole city. So here we're experimenting with things like this. We have a queer history of Amsterdam walking tour, inviting people to explore the city from a very different angle and very different places. So this, to me, is a central component of what cultural heritage and culture could bring to tourism if we're doing that in a smart way. And obviously, we could tap into very local knowledge about this. And we'll come back to that in the discussion, I'm sure, later on, Olga. How can we inform people better? I think one of the things we're uncovering is that it's very easy for us to go to Barcelona and Paris and so forth because we're well informed about what's going on in those cities. We're very much less informed about cities like, in this case, on the slide, Chemnitz, which is one of the capitals of culture at the moment, which is not in many people's consciousness. How can we inform them better of all the beauties and interesting things that are there, either before they book their travel or when they're already on the ground? So that's the second layer that I think we can explore. And the final one is we have, as I said, a relatively large network, as you have as well. Collectively, I think we have a really interesting mix of people who can help us. How do we mobilize those people to do different things? And this is my last example. This is something that our partner, collective partner, Arctour, has developed recently, creating hologram postcards of cities, and through very simple means being able to transport that experience back home when you're presenting your adventures to your family and so forth. So I hope this gives you sort of a very quick impression of where we're at, and we can now continue, Olga, with the real discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think we are going to use it for starting the roundtable discussion, because you are tackling very, very crucial issues. But before of that, I would like to present Dr. Paulos Chatzigrigoriou. I'm so sorry, I'll try to do my best, but sometimes Greek surnames are challenging. I think you want to present a short video, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I have a little bit unstable stable connection, so I have turned off my camera. I'm sorry for that, and I'm sharing my screen now. If it's possible, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I have to move this. Yeah, much better. So I will, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm connecting from the island of Syros, from Greece. We'll just start the video. Harry, this was a very, very good introduction to what we are trying to do also in our pilot, in Pilot 4, the case study of Anos Syros. It's a medieval settlement in the island. So the objective is, of course, to develop some engaging cultural tourist experiences. We are working a lot with cultural heritage, but in this project, we are looking cultural heritage from the point of view of tourism. And we need to find new ways, and not same old ways, how we can use cultural heritage to increase or to change the tourism behavior. So we have designed 3 user cases. The first user case is the heritage preservation platform that will help the decision-making policies for the local authorities. Now, the stakeholder here obviously is the local authority, is the municipality, who is very interested in find ways of intervention, of conservation, of cultural heritage, of architectural heritage, which is the physiognomy and what attracts people in the islands. So they need to find ways how to make this settlement, this village, more appealing and invite people to visit it more. It's about public safety. It's about municipal planning for tourism. Now, the use case number 2 is an enhanced cultural route mapping of the village, of the settlement. It's again an online experience platform that will provide some alternative cultural heritage routes. This is open to discussion. This is just a short presentation of what we are thinking, what we are designing. Of course, here we have also the accessibility issue that we have to tackle, because this village, as you can see probably in the video, is not accessible for all people. Now we have a museum organization who is interested in this, again, the municipality, but also travel agents that are very interested in this kind of experience, which is also a virtual and a mixed reality experience, to increase the accessibility and the engagement with the cultural heritage of the place. The third one, the user case, is a gamified experience. This is for more young audience, I should say. It's an active cultural experience for young people that could play games or in the settlement, in the village, a gamified exploration of historical landmarks. So they can visit the village, but also they can discover different hidden gems. We have now stakeholders from the game design industry, but also local tourist agents and offices, and also the local authorities. Encouragement of cultural exploration, but most important, the creation of a unique business product in the user case 3. So the data sources are coming from 3D digital twin that we have, 3D models, a 360 route network. We have a lot of buildings pathology data, but also we are going to combine this with weather data, with density of people, accessibility barriers, points of interest, and hotel density and prices. So it's going to be a mixed data project. And we have already 4 stakeholders that are on board, fully on board or partially on board. We have, of course, a lot of issues and a lot of challenges in this pilot that we already discussing. Also, we have discussed with our partners, and especially with Europeana, on how to tackle these challenges. Yeah, that was a very short presentation of what we are doing, and probably we can discuss, or I can answer some questions later on in the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paulos. You are mentioning your pilots, but in Deploytour there are other different pilots. And now Dolores will present a short overview of Deploytour. Dolores, when you want.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will share the screen. I'm just using one screen, so let me know when it's in presentation mode. One moment. It's in presentation mode?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's going to be quite short, just to give you an overview what is the project about. So it's a project that has started 6 months ago. It has 43 organizations for 13 countries, as mentioned, Europeana, and also we have partners, Paulos, as partners in the proposal. But also we have, for example, the different ministries, as the Italian Ministry of Tourism, the Greek Ministry of Tourism, or the national tourism organizations from tourism and Portugal, that are going to help us also with spreading the word in all the member states. So at the end, we are deploying a data space. We are going to generate this trusted and secure place in which the data will flow. And this is very important because the tourism ecosystem is very complex. So we want data flowing within the tourism ecosystem, but also cross-sector. And this is one of the challenges that we have. At the end, this is very important to strengthen this digital sovereignty. And you know that tourism, it's a very important industry at the level of the European Union. It must be better managed in order to ensure competitiveness and sustainability. So Harry put this sentence from UNESCO. We really need to avoid that tourism is a threat for environment, for cultural heritage. So we really need to manage it correctly, and data is going to help us. So this is just the general context. Of course, there are it's interesting to understand how it's working, because there are some initiatives at the level of the European Union, but then at national level, then we have the data spaces, then we have other data spaces that are emerging at public or private level. But then we have this complexity of the different actors that are working in the sector, and then we have to make real the implementation of different use cases that I'm going to explain later on. As a project, we have some milestones that are very similar to other projects. So at the end, we have to implement this technical infrastructure. But we are trying to ensure this interoperability, technical interoperability, but also semantic and the governance interoperability. We have the pilots, the governance framework that with these rules and roles of the different stakeholders in order to ensure this good governance for the whole ecosystem, to ensure this interoperability as we are doing now, to generate the synergies and to communicate what we are doing. We have this high-level roadmap. We are still starting, so we have all this gathering of the different requirements that are needed to put in place the implementation of the use cases, the pilots, and the architecture. So the overall deployment, we have started already to define which are the data products and define the data models. We are working with this architecture, trying to understand all the ecosystem and how we are going to integrate with the existing architectures that exist, and then to develop all the components that are needed to deploy the data space. The governance is very important. At the end, I think it makes the big difference from one data space to another. There are different actors that should be define their roles, and there are different laws, rules, regulations that we have to fulfill. GDPR is one of them, but not the only one. So I think it's very important to understand how the rules and roles that we have to define within the tourism data space are going to be also compatible or interoperable with, for example, in our case now, with the cultural heritage. Transversality is fundamental. I think this is something that is going to be repeated many times in this webinar, and it's very important to start to defining from the very beginning, because if we don't ensure interoperability from the very beginning, then we will have to start working in integrations, and this is something that it can generate some problems. We have tried to define use case pilots, and then each pilot had different use cases. So the pilots are trying to cover the different typologies of destinations and the different typologies of tourism. And as you can see, one of it is related to cultural heritage, and is the one implemented in Greece. So this one in the Alpine regions is to ensure the cross-border implementation of the pilot with Austria and Slovenia. Then we have another one from the Canary Islands, Andalusia, and the Balearics to ensure competitiveness and resilience in mature tourism destinations. Then we have another one on MICE industry that is going to be implemented in the area of Ile-de-France. Then this is the pilot that I'm not going to go a lot in detail, because we have Paulos here, and we have also our partners from Pleiades, so they are going to give us more information also during the roundtable. But it's very important to mention that from the very beginning we have included cultural heritage as one of our pilots, and then SMEs. So we cannot forget that in the tourism sector, 95% of the business ecosystem are composed by SMEs and micro SMEs. So we really need to train them, to empower them, to inform them about which are the benefits of data sharing, and also how to do it in order to be part of this very big ecosystem. So we have a dedicated pilot with that. So this is, you want more information about the project, of course, our website, social networks, and this is, I don't want it to be very long, but because what I think what is important is now the roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. Thank you so much. So now we can start with the roundtable discussion. Who wants to be the first? Is someone that wants to ask or to start the discussion? Or I have some questions. No one? Okay, so I'll start. Harry and Dolores mentioned a couple of times, especially Harry when talk about Amsterdam, sustainability in tourism. And I would like to know, I think sustainability is a key question and a key concept. How can the relationship between these two data spaces, tourism and cultural heritage, could contribute to get a more sustainable tourism and the conservation of cultural assets, which is really, really important these days. Harry, if you want to start.
Well, yeah, I think Valentine and I were chatting this morning, and Valentine, you had a really interesting example of this from France. Maybe you want to highlight that.
Yeah, I will use the example. So, well, hi everyone. It's nice to contribute to the conversation. So, indeed, as Ari said, I think in terms of creating the sustainable tourism, the idea is really to diversify the routes for tourism. So, really make sure that that tourists are visiting not the same places, and also diversify the interest when it comes to the places they visit, so that also regarding the cultural heritage, we can also decrease the pressure on some monuments and sites that are also putting this heritage at risk, which is the challenge we have in our sector. So yeah, the example I wanted to use, because I think it's really a success story in a way, is the example of the cave of Lascaux in France. I don't know if you are familiar with it. So there is this cave with beautiful prehistoric painting. So very rare heritage, something that is also attracting a lot of people. And as years have passed, the painting started to fade away because of the affluence to the site. So there was this idea to build a replica of the cave, so that we could still protect the original cave, but still make sure that people could still visit the cave and see those beautiful paintings that are quite a rare thing to see, and also seeing them as the real thing. So really entering in a cave is also the experience of it. So that was what was done. And in a way, what is good with this case is that so a replica was created. So on one hand, it was about limiting the pressure on one side, allowing the protection of this site, and continuing to have tourism activities in the site. And as years passed, because the affluence was still growing, there was more and more demand to visit the sites. What happened is that two other replicas were created. So now you have Lascaux 2, Lascaux 3, and Lascaux 4. And what those experiences have demonstrate is also in trying to find alternatives, trying to find ways to continue to provide access to the site. This also drive innovation, in the sense that the first replica of Lascaux is really a replica. So basically the effort was on making sure that the painting were replicated in the cave, that the relief of the cave was preserved, so you could really see the thing as the real cave. And then Lascaux 3 is using a bit more advanced technology, where you can start, I think they use more advanced technology to reproduce the painting, but also work on 3D modeling to also really recreate the model of the stones and how the paintings are being displayed on the stone, with some effects where they are also providing, for example, people with light, so that you can experience, when you project a light on a painting, sometimes then they are moving, which was the first animation, prehistoric animation at the time. And then Lascaux 4 is even using much more advanced technology, starting to use VR, AR, etc. So in a way, it also shows that if there is a good collaboration between tourism and culture in this case, that it's also a way to drive innovation. And so on one side, you have an economic impact, because that means now more people can visit the sites, because you have now three places where people can go. And on the other hand, from a cultural perspective, the original site is preserved, And it was a way also to drive innovation in the cultural sector, where also a lot of research could be funded to study those paintings, the different effects, etc. So yeah, I think that's a good example, and that's also what the collaboration, the good collaboration, also involving sometimes the SMEs, public-private partnership can really be used in to create those kind of success story.
Oh, it's really interesting. Really interesting. Thank you very much for comment. Maybe Paulos, you can comment something more in depth regarding the pilot project and then the combination between tourism data and combined with cultural content. Maybe, I don't know, 3D historical text, images, and something like that.
Yeah, maybe I could just for the case study is very interesting that Valentin just explained, and this is also a good example that we can use in our pilot. I could add that in the Greek islands, I think 1 or 2 years before the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, there was a European Commission report for over-tourism, and on the front page for the first time, we saw a Greek island full of tourists trying to take a picture in Santorini of a sunset. So it is an issue that we are tackling a lot of years. Maybe with the pandemic, there was a pause, but then it came back, I think, even bigger than before. So one of the things that we are trying in our pilot is to use all data for example, as Harry said, to invite people, for example, in low season to visit a destination, or inspire them to come in different places, hidden gems. We have to somehow try to find ways to guide them in these places, like in Nanoceros. And even in these places, what we are with our VR mixed reality and our mobile also app that we are designing for the cultural route, we are trying to guide the visitors in places in the settlement that they are not going to pass in front of places that they are, we know that they are neighbors of the local community, that there are, for example, other places that we have a lot of Airbnb. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, for the visitor, for the tourist that stays in the settlement, but also for the local community, which is very important, because after years of over tourism, we are losing the local community. They cannot afford, or they cannot stay anymore in these places. So it's not only protecting the cultural heritage as the built heritage, but also the intangible heritage of the community that we have to protect.
Yes, if I may, when we are discussing about sustainability, we are discussing also about balances. So, and I think this is a key word that we have to take into account, because we have this challenge of the tourism flows. So we know that in each city we have these top 10 destinations and these top 10 places that we have to be, that there is a must, and we can find in all the the websites. And then we have all these trends that the social networks with the influencers and so on, they say, okay, this is the nicest beach in the world, or this is the nicest square in the world. So everybody have to go there to make a 5-second picture, but at the same time they are generating this huge pressure on the environment, on the cultural heritage, on the city, but also they are generating also some disturbances in the day-to-day of the citizens of the place. So I think data plays a fundamental role, and that's why I think that when we are discussing about sustainability, we really need to be able to measure, to improve, and to measure, to take decisions. And that's why we need data, not only from tourism, not only from cultural heritage, but also we need data from mobility, because if we are able to get data from different sources, and now we are with cultural heritage, we need to know which is the carrying capacity of each cultural heritage. We need to know which are the times, and we need to know the number of people that can visit each place. So if we are able to generate all this data and to order that, and then to match it with the demand, we can try to organize the visits. And then if we see that the demand is too big, I think that the example from Valentine has been great. So it's going to be impossible that all the citizens in the world are going to go to visit this cave, because it's not going to be possible. So how are we going to generate these replicas? How are we going to generate 3D models? How are we going to work with virtual worlds in order that technology help us also to make the cultural heritage closer to the citizens, but without putting it in risk? So I think the data spaces are offering now a great opportunity, because we know that many of this data is there. So we know the timetables to visit the places. We know more or less which is the carrying capacity of buildings or parks, if we are speaking about cultural heritage or natural heritage or so on. So, but now we really need to generate this complementarity, this synergy on how we are going to measure and to generate the balances, to say, okay, to this place, we have a space, or only 100 people can visit this place per day. So at the end, we are generating also a kind of expectation. So I think it's sometimes when we have seen in some tourism destinations that we have put some numbers, and we say, okay, in this monument, only 1,000 people can enter per month. In this place, only 200 people can enter per day, or whatever. The people also generate this interest, and then you have bookings. And I said, okay, in 2-3 years, I will be able to visit that. But in the meantime, we have to give them also the possibility to visit other places. So, okay, you have not the possibility to visit there, but perhaps there are another cave in another village close to that nobody is visiting, because it was not in the promotion campaigns of the destinations. It was not in the social networks, or perhaps the accessibility to these places, it was not so easy for that. So I really believe that we need all this data in order to be able to take these decisions and to check how can we better distribute the flows, because we are not going to be able to stop tourism. So indeed, if we take a look to the UN tourism statistics, tourism is going to continue growing more than 5% per year in the next years. So this means that the number of people coming to Europe is going to increase, because Europe is the continent with the highest cultural heritage. So they want to have this unique experience. They want to visit this unique cultural heritage, these unique monuments, and this is only in Europe. So I think this is something that we have to take into account, and that's why I think it's so important that cultural heritage and tourism works together to generate also these balances. I know Valentine have them.
Just to react on what you were saying. So from your perspective, from the perspective of tourism, for you, it's about managing flows. And I think from the culture perspective, it could be data could be important to make decisions. So, I mean, the cultural heritage sector, as you probably know, it's a sector that is always under pressure, in the sense that also lacking funding, and making choice is very important, because not everything can be digitized. And as we were preparing for this presentation, I was just asking myself, at the moment when it comes to deciding what is going to be digitized, especially when we speak about digitization in 3D, everybody is thinking about the big sites, the most well-known things. But in a way, looking at the use case from Pavlos, I'm thinking maybe in fact the decision should be done on digitizing the other stuff, maybe the assets that are less known, because that will be the way to diversify those routes and to distract people in a way from the main sites, the blockbuster of culture. And then in the meantime, if you redirect people to other destination, you can then care for those big sites that also need preservation. So for me, I was wondering that in fact, having more data from tourism could influence our decision making process in a way that we are maybe not foreseeing right now, where, you know, attention is on the most well-known thing. And in fact, maybe we should look at, yeah, what are these other things? And maybe on your island, Pavlos, what hasn't been digitized yet that should be digitized, because that will help you to build the experience you want to build.
I see the hand from Harry, so I don't know, but I really agree with you, because we really need to share this data to face different challenges, because we are facing similar challenges and we call it in different way. But at the same time, if we are having this data, we will be able to take these decisions. Harry.
Yeah, thank you. Just continuing the conversation and the relevance of data. So the Let's Go example, I think it's good to understand how well that was done. Both the replica was an incredibly accurate replica. Really, it was a 3D internal thing. So I'm saying this because the experience, I went there a couple of years ago, was just incredible. You could hardly knew that you were not in the original. Maybe it wasn't as cold as in the original. And the same thing for Let's Go 4, which is the digital replica. What's the beauty of that is that it could transport the experience and detach it from the location. So Let's Go 4 is a traveling exhibition and goes around the world and inspire people. So you don't even have to go to Let's Go anymore to get a really good, interesting sense of the experience. So if we take those two elements and we transport it back again to the discussion about data, so maybe one of the things we could focus on is how can we use data, tourism data, for example, about demographics, to divert people from certain places to other things. I spoke to someone in Amsterdam who said, one of the demographics of tourism in Amsterdam is that we have families. Besides the stag parties coming from the UK, there's a lot of families going there. And the reason why families go there is that it's, even for young people, it's a very attractive place to go. It's in their imagination already, Amsterdam, right? They have a picture of it. And then they started experimenting that right on Dam Square, which is the center of the city where most tourists flock to, they're creating a 3D immersive experience about very interesting things that are happening somewhere else in the Netherlands, bringing young people there, tapping into their imagination about what's happening in Deventer and in Valkenburg and so forth, which normally they would discourage their parents to go to, right? Because boring. They now got excited about, and that allowed the parents to go to other places that they would like to go to anyway. I'm saying this because I think it's what we're after here is really a change management problem. Right? We're trying to change behavior, and it's a complicated thing. We need to understand the psychology behind it, and for that, we need a lot of data that otherwise would not be available.
And I think this, sorry, Olga, because what I see also behind all this discussion is that at the end, we are also happy to generate new business models, because at the end, we are encouraging other places to have, if we have replicas of these caves in other places, or we use the technology to encourage to go to the places, we are helping the companies or giving them ideas on which are the needs or the requests, because in some territories, we cannot continue increasing the number of people visiting our places, because our territory cannot allow that. So I think it's something that is real. But we have in Europe, and this was something that was done in the framework of the one other program of the European Commission, which is the Intelligent City Challenge, in which we make a survey to the cities, and we ask them, what are you expecting from tourism? And the answer was, we want to increase the number of tourists coming to our cities. So I said, wow, I was the one speaking, and I said, well, I'm from Mallorca, so I cannot say this in public, because we're trying to reduce that. And if you are in Amsterdam, I think it will be the same feeling. But there are a lot of cities that are seeing tourism as an opportunity for economic development, for welfare, and so on. So, but they don't have the possibility to attract the tourists because they are not well known. They are not in the circles of the, I don't know, tour operators or whatever. But perhaps with all this data that we have from the destinations, that we have from tourism, that we have from cultural heritage, we will be able to help them to understand, to the companies, which could be new business models in which they can use this data to develop new experiences. So I think this could be also a good outcome, I think, from the collaboration of the two data spaces.
Totally. Can I ask Pavlos, can I ask you a question about your use case? So do I understand correctly, your island attracts quite a lot of tourism, right? But it's a particular kind of tourism that likes to sit on beaches and doesn't necessarily want to have cultural experiences. Is that correct, or am I misjudging this a bit?
No, it's not exactly that. It has visitors. It used to be what we call a hidden gem, but after the pandemic, it's every year it's discovered more by people. So we have more and more visitors. But there is a big effort in the island for inspire people to visit more the built heritage or the cultural heritage of the island, and less the very, the Greek model of what you saw in the GIF of a nice port or a beach. Yes.
Exactly. So do you have data already about the people who the current tourism demographics, and does that help you in figuring out how to change what they're currently doing to what you would like them to do?
We have data, but the data that we have usually are coming in a later stage. I mean, after 1 year of a full touristic period, we can have some data in the demographics of what we have in the island, but not very detailed. They're not detailed data. I mean, it's rough data of visitors, of arrivals, departures, and not detailed. There is no study of which country they're coming from, or for if they are in an island hopping experience, or they came just for this island. So we need this kind of data that we don't have yet. No.
Exactly. Yeah, that was what I was after. That's the detail that you need, right, in order to be able to make these interventions, really.
Yeah, it's something that yes, data is really important, and it's difficult also to harvest them, as you know. I would like also to add a little bit to the discussion about the experience. I think by discussing the cave and discussing all the other cases, there is no best solution for everybody. I mean, there are different solutions and they're custom made, and we have to see that the data are going to help us a lot for custom solutions for the place. Even in our island, we have different demand of tourism in the Annos Syros, in the settlement, the village that I show you, and demands for the city of the island. So even in a small island, we have different approaches in the tourism and cultural heritage, and we have to design different solutions. It's not only about digitizing and providing a digital experience, but it's what Dolores said. We have to build experiences, and the experience can be digital, but can be, as I showed, the game that they're going to play. It's a physical experience that we are going to use digital data for this experience. So yeah, we have to imagine and get some inspiration from the data, and find this path of developing this experience for tourism and for cultural heritage.
Okay, I would like to remind that this is an open conversation, so feel free to participate or to ask something for the rest of attendees. Okay, Paulos, you mentioned before about the involvement of local community. How important do you think is involved the local community in, I mean, crafts people or guides or something like that? Because in most places we are living that perception or the feeling that the tourism is perceived as a threat instead of an opportunity or a strength. How important do you think is to involve the local community?
I think it's fundamental. I mean, you start with the local community, and in our pilot, we started the process is co-designing these solutions with the local community. It's not only the stakeholders. The stakeholders represent the local community, and this co-design it means that we are not going to offer them the solution. They have to. This is very challenging. They have to be really on board and help us and be part of the solution. Otherwise, it's going to be something that they are not going to use. It's not going to be useful. It's only going to be a very nice, let's say, presentation for a conference. But we really want this pilot to be not a presentation, but to be something that will really help them to see a new way of managing or balancing, as Dolores said, balancing with the visitors and the local community, especially the crafts that you mentioned. This is really interesting, and this is also very important because then we're talking about intangible heritage. And yes, they want visitors because they are selling to tourists, so they really want this kind of economy, this path to develop, but at the same time, it's very easy to be threatened by the over tourism idea. So the balance is delicate. There is a very thin line there, but we feel that there are good practices and there are solutions that if you have the data, so you can provide some kind of tangible result for them, so they can see that there is a tangible result. And this is our effort now to take them on board in the project, because we are presenting, but it's difficult to get on board all these people, and especially the local community in this kind of projects, because they are not convinced that there is a solution to what they are facing, either low tourism or low season period, or a big low season period, or the other end, this high tourism, this high season and over tourism period. So they don't see a solution, and we really trying now to help them understand what are the potentials of having this kind of data, of having all the crafts businesses documented in a database that we can use for our apps, for example, a data space that we can use in order to develop apps, or in the future, other businesses, tourist offices, etc., their travel agencies, they are going to use to develop tours, cultural tours, or crafts tours in the island.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we can spend a whole morning talking about tourism, data, and cultural heritage, but it's time to finish. So, Dolores, if you want to say something for wrap up.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to thank you all the participants, especially Europeana with Harry and Valentine here, and also Paulos for the participation. I think it has been a very interesting discussion. I think we really need to continue discussing, because I think these different perspectives to tackling different similar challenges. And I think also it's very important what Paulos has mentioned. We have a problem on getting all the data that we need. So we really need to continue working with the ecosystems. And here it's again the work that we have to do with the small and medium-sized companies, with the smaller destinations, that they don't have perhaps the mechanisms, and they are not so used to gather data, to structure the data, and to share the data. And I think this is very important, because if we don't generate this awareness on how important it is to have data to take these better decisions for our territories and for our heritage, and we don't demonstrate with real use cases, pilots, and benefits, which is the importance of data, we are going to continue facing this problem. So I think the pilots that we are both implementing from the cultural heritage side and from the tourism data space side are very important. In a way, we have to try them to make them converge in order that by reusing this data and sharing this data, we will be able to solve some of the challenges that we have as Europe, because this is not a problem that is specific for one territory, but I think it's something that is going is affecting the overall territory of the European Union. Just to remind you, as I mentioned at the beginning, that those are webinar series. The next one will be at the beginning of June with the smart cities and communities. You will have the information, the date, and everything in our website and the social networks. And I just invite you to be part of the community, to register to our newsletter, and to follow up. And we are going also to start with the stakeholder forums, because we want to generate a great community in which all these discussions can help us to analyze how can we help to understand why we should share data to solve challenges. So thank you so much for your participation, and thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much, Europeana.